Aim is the single thing in Fortnite that separates the average or good players from the great players that end up playing the game professionally and making money from it. There are so many people that have insane builds and can piece control and edit and everything insanely well, but there's not that many people that have consistently insane aim. And this is especially true on controller. There's so many controller players that are insane mechanically, like as far as builds, edits, piece control, that stuff goes, but then when it gets to their aim is just trash. So that's why I'm going to be showing you guys how to improve your aim on controller in chapter 3. And of course, if you find this video helpful or you find yourself enjoying it, then please do not forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Now let's hop into the tips. The first step into getting insane controller aim is to buy a Zen. No, just kidding. You probably shouldn't buy a Zen. That's actually cheating. But I mean, realistically, that's what a lot of players do to get good aim. However, it's not impossible to have insane aim without a Zen. The first step into achieving that is to have lower sense. I would say the easiest way to consistently have good aim is to just lower your sense. It might be uncomfortable at first, but low sense this chapter especially is super important to be able to hit all your shots, especially with the long range that is pretty necessary this chapter. I mean, you almost have to have really good long range aim to be able to succeed this chapter, especially with like the MK7. This gun shreds long range, so if you're not able to capitalize on that, especially on controller, then you're kind of getting left behind. And when I say you need to lower your sense, I'm not only talking about ADS sense. ADS sense is really only half of it. Your look sense also plays into your aim so much, because your look sense is going to affect any time where you're not ADS. So if you're still taking shots like this, or with your SMG you're spraying, that aim is dependent on your look sense. In this chapter, especially with all the spray weapons that there are, it's super important that us controller players take advantage of this. SMGs and MK7s don't have much, if any, aim assist close range. So if your look sense is high and you're spraying non-ADS, then that's literally going to be impossible to accurately control. So your look sense needs to be low enough to the point where you can be accurate while non-ADS spraying, but it also needs to be high enough to the point where you can like just run around the map and comfortably like look behind you, or if you end up in a box with someone, you can turn around fast enough to get that shot off. So with look sense, there's definitely a pretty perfect medium that you should be using, and here's the settings that I've found to work well this chapter. So for my look sense, I'm on 39% for both horizontal and vertical with no turning boost, and then for ADS sense, I'm on 6% for both horizontal and vertical with 2% horizontal boost and 1% vertical boost. And I find these settings to be literally the perfect aim settings. I feel so comfortable with them. I feel like my aim is never out of control no matter what situation I'm in. I can always be super accurate with my shots, and my aim in general on these settings is pretty solid. Tip 2 is pretty specific to this chapter, and it's to learn and practice aiming while sliding. Sliding is definitely going to be the meta eventually. I still just don't think people are taking the time to learn it enough right now, but it's definitely better to get ahead of the curve and start practicing now. Unfortunately, as of now, I'm pretty sure there's no maps that specifically practice sliding aim. I know there's some practice maps that have been updated to include sliding, like the Piece Control map V3 by Raider464, but if you're able to learn like a piece control play while sliding and you can shoot and you can consistently perform that, that's literally going to be insane. Like, you're gonna be so ahead skill wise right now. So even just to go into like a free build creative island and practice random scenarios like this and see like what kind of piece control combos you can come up with while sliding, that's gonna be huge. It introduces you to sliding, it introduces you to practicing your aim while sliding, and overall being able to hit shots like this is going to become so important here very soon. The third tip for getting insane controller aim in chapter 3 is to practice your aim coming off of piece control. If you don't know what that means being able to smoothly transition from your builds and edits and getting in a position where you have a good shot on your opponent and being able to smoothly transition to your shotgun and hit an accurate shot. This is by far the most important type of aim. You can have the best aim in the world on like tile frenzies or hitting static targets like that. You can even have insane tracking aim, but if you aren't able to make that smooth transition from your piece control into actually hitting an accurate shot, then you're really just not going to succeed in Fortnite. Probably like 90% of the fights that you get in are close range. In all close range fights, you're gonna be building, you're gonna be editing, you're gonna be doing piece control, and this is by far the hardest type of aim to master because it's just so spur of the moment. Not only do you have to have like consistent builds and edits and get in the position to give yourself a good shot opportunity, but then you also have to make sure you switch to the right slot, you switch to your shotgun, and you have to make sure you line up a proper shot and take a good shot. So there's just so much that goes into it, which is why it's the hardest aspect of aim to learn, but it's also the most important. The best way to practice that is going to be in maps like Raider 464's Peace Control map V3. That's the second time that I've mentioned that map because it is really good. Or even in just like big free-for-all maps. There's usually always 1 or 2 free-for-all maps in the practice tab in the creative hub. Even though some of the players in there are complete bots, it's actually really good practice because they're pretty easy to like piece control and get in a good position to take a shot, but they're not just going to be static targets. They're actually going to be moving and have real player movement, which is super important to be able to practice on. If you only ever practice on static targets, your aim isn't going to improve very much. So mixing in those like realistics and free-for-all maps into your practice is super important with this. And something that kind of goes along with your aim off of piece control is actually crosshair placement. So let's say there was an opponent in this box, like right where the sniper is, and I'm right here. I have the wall and I'm about to make an edit play on them. Say I want to make just a basic bottom right 3 edit. If the player's head is here, I do not want to edit down and to the left like this, because then when I let go of the edit, I'm here and I have to come back all the way up to the head. So smart crosshair placement starts the edit down here and ends right here. So right when I end the edit, I can ADS and I'm already lined up on that player's head. So if you can recognize when you're in those situations and you're able to recognize that crosshair placement, so you're not making the edit like this and then moving over to this, instead you're making the edit here and you're already lined up on them. That is actually such an important aspect of being accurate with your shotgun shots. Now we move on to the tip of being patient. This tip is way easier said than done because when you're in an actual fight with someone, like say you're in a box with someone, you obviously want to kill them before they kill you, so you're gonna just take the shot. But where you'll actually find more success is instead of just taking that shot as fast as possible, you actually wait for the perfect moment to take that shot. So instead of shooting someone while they're up jumping in the air and you might like hit their toes and hit them for 40 damage, you wait the extra like half a second until they actually land. Even if they get a shot off on you, it doesn't matter because when they land, you have a way better chance of hitting that headshot. And while they're in the air anyway, you can already be lined up where their head will be when they land back on the ground. Ree is a controller player that does this super well. Almost every time he takes a shot, it looks just so calculated and you can tell he does not rush his shots. He waits until he knows he can hit a high damage shot before he even shoots. And his movement on controller and being able to hit those like right hand peaks is so good. One super good way to practice this is to go into 200 only box fight maps. In these maps, you're given only a gold spaz and you're in this big area with like 16 other players, and basically you can only kill someone if you 200 pump them. So that means rushing your shot and hitting them for like a body shot does absolutely nothing for you because by the time you get off your next shot, they're already back up to 200 HP. So the only time your shots matter are when they hit for 200. And this map really teaches you how to be disciplined with the shots that you take and only take quality shots. Obviously, if you're in a real game, you don't want to sit there and run around in a box for 20 seconds before you take your shot, but it does really help you enforce that idea of only taking quality shots that are likely to hit for max damage. This is the map that I really like to include in my warm-up routine more than my practice routine, because even just playing it for like 10 minutes before I actually hop into any game, it really just reinforces that idea of the shots that I'm actually looking for. It's almost like a mindset that you have to get into, and then once you're in that mindset, it seems so simple and you hit such good shots. And the last tip for getting good controller aim in Chapter 3 is experience. If you have little experience in intense situations like end games or when you're outnumbered in like 1v2s, then you're automatically just gonna have bad aim in those situations because they're intense. If you played OG Fortnite, you know how in like season 1 through season 3, when you were like top 3, you would literally be shaking and you would sit there and choke so many shots because you were so nervous and you wanted to get the win so bad. But then at this point, 4 years later, when you're in that same situation, it's literally like nothing. You're going and you're just messing around, you're having fun, you're free building, you're doing whatever, because you've been in that situation so many times that it just doesn't seem like a big deal, and therefore you're a lot more relaxed, you're a lot more confident, and you're a lot more likely to be accurate with your aim. So the best way to fix this and hit those shots where they really matter is really just to put yourself in those situations more often. And really the only way to actually do that is to just play the game more. I mean, maybe instead of like playing creative so much where if you die you just respawn right away, you play like arena more often where you just spent 20 minutes getting to end game, so there's more of a consequence if you die. So by putting yourself in those naturally more intense situations, after you consistently experience those situations over and over, you're naturally just gonna build confidence in them. Once you do it enough, it just won't even seem like a big deal. And there's just this aspect of confidence, whether you know it or not, that's associated with that. So I really hope that these tips help you. There are definitely some tips that have helped me, especially this chapter. So thank you guys so much for watching, and good luck with your aim.